Hello, sports fans. It's your old pal Scruffy, needing a haircut. Coming back at you one more time. My taps are dripping. I hope that doesn't pick up too strongly in the video. I haven't done one of these in a long time. I'm going to call this the state of my union address just to catch up with things in life and such. First off, I want to say I am so proud and honored by the protesters, both abroad, worldwide, and here locally, who are standing up for the rights of those of us who are disenfranchised. If we don't speak up, nothing will ever change. And there's a large part of me, even though I have a very hard time with crowds, that wishes I could join you. I did protest back in my high school days, and I made sure to take part in the little Occupy Wall Street movement, which was back in like 2011, I think. I jumped in for a minute and couldn't stay, and was also kind of disheartened because in other Wall Street Occupy protests, they had people from all walks of life, and it seemed like the little bit that I saw in Halifax was only kind of a very fringe minority of like food not bombs type characters, and nothing those guys are really key for those kinds of things. But I had hoped to see more representation against different types of people, and I didn't. But yeah, the big reason I don't do that, and everybody who's watched my videos, you know that I always talk about this, so I'm beating a dead horse, and I'm sorry to keep going on about this, but ever since 2006, I developed a condition with my cerebral palsy that I wasn't born with, but developed at age 22 and a half, neurogenic bladder, and it's so difficult because I don't have accidents and that, but I have a frequency of sometimes that can be as frequent as 22 times a day. And that's like 22 times in like 16, 17 hours, right? I don't pee when I'm sleeping. I don't, you know, it has eased off a bit, but see, that's not even the half of it. The half of it is that, or the other half rather, is that if I don't get them in time, like if I have to hold it in for like 10 or 15 minutes too long, I'm extra sore and dysfunctional for the rest of the day or a long time anyway. And another thing that it can do is it can like finish before it's finished. And then so instead of running every 30 or 40 minutes, I'm running every like 10, 15, and I can start to feel the pain, which is normally localized in the urethra, um, crawl up my back into my kidneys. So it does have me very worried about my long-term health. And trust me, folks, I've tried everything. Um, including most recently electrocuting myself slightly with a TENS machine, and no improvement. If anything, it made it worse. So I've been through the ringer in terms of medical treatments, and you just gotta trust me. So all that to say, um, when I say make posts like, oh, my life doesn't have enough living in it, it's not just because I'm going through a bad phase. It's because I really can't get out and do the things I would like to do because that's how dysfunctional my PN is, right? So and I it's funny, like when I was younger, I used to, oh geez, I can't network my career, and that is true. I can't really. I can I can write and perform, but I can't hobnob in the way that's necessary, right? Get to know people and make those connections. But as I've gotten the last year or two, I've kind of stepped away from that, and I still very much want to get the work done, but I don't necessarily care about being a success or not, if especially if it means that I have to cozy up to people that I wouldn't naturally fit in with, and the friendship is like insincere. And I'm all for like sincere, real friendships, but I just like I don't think I could fake it to make it. And even if I could, like I'm not well enough anyway. Um, Oddly enough, it has eased up a bit over the last 2 months, so I'm having a bit of an easier time with it than I normally do. But all that means is I'm not as worried about imminent death as I was for like a year or so or more. So, and it could get back to that really bad state at any moment. It seems to be very unpredictable. So that's that. And, I try to look though at the bright side of things and realize like okay, so let's say I didn't have this and I just had my CPE and my mobility, my poor coordination and you know, bad sense of direction and savant speech memory and all those things and not the bladder. And I could get out and, be in the park as much as I want or, walk around all day as I did when I was young on my crutches, you know. Um, and I had to lose like friends or family for that. Um, that's not a bargain I would take. I'd rather have my friends and family and be able to do my art and stuff than if I only had the activities to do and not a soul in the world to share them with. So I do look at the glass half full that way, and my sleeping disorder is a lot better treated now with medication, so I don't have to deal with that. And I'm I'd probably rather have the PM than some severe developmental disability or uh, consistent mental illness. So I mean, could be a lot worse, I guess, right? But again, I'm so proud of the people who are standing up for what's right, and especially locally fighting against cuts that would have affected my funding. The arts funding is bad, but uh, and I've been a recipient of some of that before. Not much lately, and from the looks of things, maybe never again. But I know that helps a lot of people too. So I'd like to see that continue. And like the thing about this, right, that I don't understand why other people get behind it so much. These policies that uh, favor the rich, right? Like because the rich is only really a small percentage of people, and even people that are middle class, if there are any left, is getting eroded away. That might not want their money is going to support people like me. Like, okay, fair enough, but like shouldn't the real burden come on the billionaires, the people that are making the most, because like they can afford to share their money, right? So I really I think we've all got to get on the same. And there's many things to disagree about, no question about that. But like uh, one that everybody should get on board with is the super rich need to share more, and the financial burden needs to go on them because it's no burden at all, right? It's no burden at all. Um, so, what else did I want to talk about? Yes, okay, I've got a new show coming up on. It keeps getting postponed, but it's going to be April 11th, Saturday, 8 p.m. Live streamed on the Gimp and Easy YouTube channel. Um, and PM me for an invite if you don't get one, if you want to come see it in person. All new stuff. It will be dedicated to the memory of my grandmother, and the closing piece is called Virginia's Power, which is a play on her maiden name, which was Power, and about her how much power she had to live the life that she lived so well, and some jokes about growing up going to disability camps where like we were too disabled to do most of the life skills they were teaching us to do that I never talked about on stage before. So I hope you'll all enjoy that. Um, One of the other things I wanted to talk about quickly was um, my good pal Sexian has said this to me a number of times, and that is that when I'm off in the cafe or out in public in general, but normally it's sans poil, right? Kind of the general clientele maybe doesn't quite know what to think because I'm just sort of reading and I don't really talk to that many people and I'm very silent and stuff like that. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, like first and foremost, is that because I'm dealing with that wonky pee and all day long, like even when it's good, I never get a day off, right? I'm home alone like almost all the time. All the time, right? Like I have some visits in the evenings or like in the afternoon here. Tonto was over to help, So I'm not like entirely alone, but like that one shot at the cafe might be the only time I've interacted with another person, um, like the entire day, right? So I'm not ready, like to, it's it's a big change, like even if there's only a few people versus no people. And another thing is that like I I've been burnt by when I was young, letting some of the wrong people get a little bit too close. So I'm very taciturn and cautious when it comes to meeting new people. Um, and I've also, I've greatly benefited by, letting the right people get close too. So, and I have made very good friends at the cafe as well. So, it's not like I think everybody's out to get me or anything like that. But one, you know, I'm not easily sociable because I'm coming from complete solitude, and two, like I don't know what the person's potentially going to be like. It's not easy for me to move around, right? So if I have somebody that's like a real loud talker or is having a lot of troubles, and I can't move away, it's kind of better to just read the book and stay out of trouble. And also too with the bladder, like it's a lot easier to put a book down than it is to put a conversation down. And even some of the ones that I want to have. So my resting reading face is not meant to be judgmental or snooty or whatever like that, but it's meant to I'm managing serious health stuff, and also meant to like keep me safe a little bit too, right? So um, I hope that could easily be understood. You know, if anybody else in there like had like my kind of life, and trust me, I'm not saying I'm the only one with struggles in there, because there's people who go in there that have tremendous more struggles than I do, right? But I'm certainly the only one with those specific kind of troubles. So uh, that's where it's at. Um, Wanted to talk about the Blue Jays briefly here, if I can get this in succinctly. It was a heartbreaker. Game 7 of the World Series. Hadn't made it that far since '93. Uh, I have been, you know, overall sort of up and down on management. Didn't like a lot of their choices, but some. They made some good choices. Generally, their pitching moves have been good. Um, except for when they traded Teoscar for that reliever that I can't think of off the top of my head. That he was all right for a bit, but I don't think he was worth Teoscar. And um, they signed up Vladdy and they signed up Kirky, and that's good. And some of the guys that they got rid of, they should have got rid of a long time ago, like Jansen and Chapman and Biggio. Biggio maybe could have been a bench guy, but he's not able to do full time. Um, and you know, I think some of this defense first policy is it's not the way I'd look at it so much. I think offense is, and it's not that defense isn't important, but I think offense is really important too. And like so, when you come to guys like Varsho, like incredible glove, and he's definitely got good power, but I don't really know that he's a consistent hitter, and he seems to be hurt quite a lot. So I don't know if it was worth it to trade Gurriel for him. And if they'd kept Gurriel, they would have had Kirky and Moreno as the number two catcher, and I think that's a pretty good number two. Although can't be denied, last year Tyler Heineman was excellent, excellent number two. So that's a pretty good move. Um, Trying to think if there's anything. Yeah, of course. I'm upset about Bichette. I know the last 2 years he was injury prone a little bit, but he's basically a career 300 hitter, and he's one of that core right along with Vladdy. If I had to, choose between Vladdy and Bo, I would choose Vladdy probably because well, I think he has a better attitude, and also because he's more durable. Like he's not as injury prone, and I think he might be like a better leader. So if it was like a dispute between them or something, I could see that. But I don't know, man. Like I just think he's one of the key cornerstones. Now, if the guy we got, Okamoto, if he was if he turns out to be like Ichiro Suzuki, you know, and the guy that we signed from Japan, if it ends up being like we lost, Bo to gain an Ichiro Suzuki, well, um, that might be okay because we got a lot of other, you know, Jimenez, the, shortstop. I don't really know too much about him. If he can do it with a glove, but he can't do it with a bat. But you've got Barger there, Clement, and Vladdy, and one guy I would try to make sure to keep playing every day in the outfield is Nathan Lucas. I think he's got um, one of the more explosive bats and a good glove. So he's somebody I'd look to hang on to and play every day. And like I said, I think the pitching moves overall have been quite good. So I'm looking forward to the season, and hopefully the loss of Bo won't hurt us too much. And just one more quick piece of Blue Jays business before I move on. As really saddened to hear about the retirement of Buck Martinez. Well deserved. I think he's going to be like 78 or 9 this year, something like that. He's around there anyway. And he's my favorite sports commentator of all time. Some longtime Blue Jays fans will say, like, oh, Tom Cheek, but I'm pretty sure that was on the radio. And I never really listened to the games on the radio that much. I was a TV guy, and Buck Martinez, just his knowledge of the game, uh, was so good. Like me bandwagoning on as a 9-year-old kid, during the playoff run then, and then watching, predominantly most of the season in '93. The way Buck talked about baseball, it really taught me baseball. And I didn't necessarily know strategy as well until I became an adult and stuff. But um, just his knowledge of the game and also his voice. Like it was like the perfect voice almost to call, like the sound of his voice, I mean, to call those games, and with the combination of the knowledge. And I'll tell you, like, I played baseball briefly as a kid. Um, my father had built a stand for me because I can't stand on support, so I climb into this thing, stand at bat. I'd have a pinch runner to first base if I ever did get on, which was usually by a walk if I would. I had one infield hit, but my runner Holly, who's on my Facebook, she didn't know, like I think she thought it was a foul ball, so she didn't run, and it would have been just like a swinging bunt tapper that I would have got. But she made a lovely catch the next half inning, so she still helped the team. But it would have been my only hit, Holly, if you just would have ran that time. But no, and with the way Buck talked about things, like it was 9 to 11 was the age range of playing, and I was 11 turning 12 that summer, and I missed the end of the season because I had my final, hopefully ever, surgery, the right hamstring lengthening, so I missed the end of the season. But I think that being a little bit older and listening to Buck Martinez, even though I would have been the worst player on the team physically, like there's no way, I barely hit, couldn't run to first base, this that, couldn't really field. What I would do is I would say, okay, what am I going to do here? So I'm in the field, right? Can't really make a play, but so crutch on my left hand, the glove on the right, and I don't think I ever made any catches, but I'm like, fuck, if any of these little kids hits it out here, I'll get it back to the fucking infield at least. And I did, right? So I was able to do that. And the other thing I was able to do is, even though, I mean, I don't know if I was guaranteed the slowest runner, but I would have been one of them anyway. But, you know, kids throwing the ball around, I'd take the base all the time I could, you know, and some games you were allowed to steal home, some you weren't, but I'd take it anyway, throw to the backstop, I'm going. They're not going to catch me. Um, you know, and I'd go anyways, so send me back to third. The run doesn't count. You're not out, right? So always run, always take my base, take my walk. I like to take my bean too, because that would get me on. So, and I didn't want to take not one right in the teeth or anything like that, but I didn't mind getting one, a little brush up in the side of the face or something, get on. And it was Buck that helped me. So I'm gonna miss him, and I hope that he really enjoys his retirement. And I'm trying to think. There was one more thing that I might have wanted to talk about for this section. Not on baseball, but I I've been tossing around the idea of sort of incorporating my spirituality into these posts, into these videos in ways that I hope would be helpful to others. I mean, there are ways that thoughts have certainly helped me uh, navigate my feelings around the world, and I'd call them, pontifications from the pulpit of the peculiar. So look forward to those if I ever get around to doing it. But oh yeah, I know what I want to talk about. Um, an old longtime comic just recently messaged me to see if I was still doing comedy, and I had to give a voice message because it's a complicated answer because it's a yes and a no. Like I'm not doing open mic. I don't actually want to really do open mics anymore. Like that's not to say on that like I'll do one every year or two to prove that I can still do it. I think the last one was about 2 years ago, and I almost did one in the last month, but it just didn't work out with the way I was feeling and the other stuff that I had on my plate. So I feel kind of bad that I wasn't able to deliver that one time. But again, uh, not to piss him off, but with that bladder stuff, uh, it wouldn't necessarily make it worse every time, but it would most times. And it's just like, well, you know, so after, geez, probably like 11 years, so 17, I started like easing off of not doing it, which is a long time ago now because I started back in '06, right? And I wanted to do serious poetry, and I was doing a film, and I did a one-man theater show and a podcast that I'd actually like to bring back someday for a little bit. Um, but what I've done, right, is instead of doing open mics, I do house shows and yard shows, and I do about 15 to 20 minutes of stand up, and then I do about half an hour of poetry. So it winds up usually being just 50 minutes, like might be 48 minutes, might be 53. I'm usually just around that 50-minute mark. All new shows, do them 3 times a year, right? And I do like come upon the same themes sometimes, but like for those of you who think because you don't see me around shows that I've given up, that I'm not still working the craft, and I'm sure like some people it's probably not even in their mind just because like I uh, I was never really able to get that close and fit in that well, which is partly me, partly health, um, of course, but also I don't know if it was ever right, and I'm not so hot in groups. Like I'm okay with the microphone and stuff and to perform, but to hang around and stuff, if it's a lot of people, I find it hard. I find um, because I'm kind of real in tune, and personalities are quite loud to me, even if they're not terribly loud, but especially if they are. So I'm kind of in a sensory overload in groups, and it's very difficult for me that way. Um, but the point that I wanted to make here about this was that it may appear that I've like given up because you don't see me around, and you know and like once a year, and like I've been fortunate enough that some of the youngsters are letting me headline. It means the world to me that my reputation, whatever of it, exists a little enough that this guy who's I think I'm still considered one of Halifax's first comp. Like I wasn't like the first, or like there was stuff a few years before me. I think Paul Ash had mentioned this current um, thing started in like '03 or '04, I believe, and I started in '06. And uh, then I believe he had told me one time there was a Yuck Yucks like 10 years before that, early 90s, in like the Lord Nelson or something or around there. So um, but definitely there the first couple of years of the 2000 scene, right? May 31st, '06 being my first ever day. So guys like Peter White and uh, Ian Black, Paul Ash, Andrew Albert, they were before. Steve Mackey would have been before me. Carrie Lee, Catherine Robertson, and them would have been just after I started. And uh, yeah, but anyway, point being, as I digress, obviously, point being that even though I'm not gigging, I'm doing these new, I'm writing more material than I way more, because you get your stuff ready, especially when you're just learning to do it too, and you finally, because you suck for a couple of years, which is most of us. There are a few people, um, like that were like Peter White was really good right out of the gate. Mark Little too. Pardis learned really quick and got good really fast. But like yeah, even guys like Steve took quite a while to catch on, but turned into one of the strongest, absolute strongest comics in town, right? So I took a bit too, right? And then once you're in that initial stage of like, okay, you've got your stuff that works, you might be reticent to deviate from that because like, oh my God, like it took me like, 2 years or whatever to figure out like a good 10, right? But so now um I'm just like, fuck it. And so what results is that I'm writing like 45 to an hour of stand up a year, and fuck, I guess like probably 90 minutes of poetry, like long, like some of my poems are 11 minutes long, which should surprise you because I'm doing an update on my life that has now clocked in at over 27. I've been talking for a half an hour here, and I hope you find this entertaining and are able to stick with it. And so yeah, I haven't given up. I've just evolved, and I have little downtimes. I had a real low energy vibe, found I was low on iron. But overall, like I'm working harder than I ever worked. I believe more than I ever have, and I'm more dedicated to the craft than I ever have been. But I'm also less worried about the business side of things than I ever have been. It it's a great worry to me that my life might be cut short. It might not be cut short, but it might be, right? So I want to get as much done as possible, and that's my one thing to you, to leave you with. Sometime when you're out doing activities and just like having a great day, you're kind of out all day. You're in the waterfront. You're in the park. If you go to karaoke or loud shit, do that on your own. But when you're doing stuff, you're doing nature-based activities. Think of old Josh, because if if things were different, that's what I'd like to be doing with my life. So I hope everybody's doing well. And new show, April 11th. It's a Saturday night, 8 p.m. And I'll catch you soon again. All right. Arrivederci.